Quayshawn, what can philosophers of biology bring to the concept of death? And why is it important to look at death from a philosophical point of view?
Well, as mortal creatures, at some point we're all going to do it. And even with respect to the species and higher taxa we're in, at some point they're all going to do it. And it's just part of the human experience, part of the experience of a mortal creature to have some understanding of that. Now, what's been of interest to me is when higher taxa and species die. And that's been of somewhat of an interest to me since Jurassic Park and the claims of being able to revive extinct species and things of that nature. Can you really ever really do that? And that ties into things that philosophers of biology have been studying, like the nature of a species or the nature of a higher taxon. That'll give you guidance on whether it's even conceptually or metaphysically possible to engage in those activities of bringing back an extinct species or something. And if so, how you might be able to achieve it. Because those conditions for persisting are going to give you the conditions, or at least some ways of killing it, of the death of the taxon. And you can flip that around to bring it back alive.
Some would say that only by death can we appreciate life.
That's grim, but that seems that seems to have some truth, not just with respect to higher level taxa, but even organisms. A very helpful way of how philosophers of biology who study like life and higher order organization of mortality is by looking at how it ends. So some really interesting work on philosophy of life of individual things has come from looking at how those things end. And say, for example, one that's been pretty influential is the metabolism / entropy way of thinking about life, where it's like, well, what's really happening is the order, the incredible order that's being built up in cells and in organisms is becoming disorderly, right? And the struggle of life is, from that paradigm of thinking about what constitutes a life form, the struggle of not reaching maximum entropy, right? Of completely becoming disordered. So I think that's it's in a sense humbling, but it's also very insightful, and it can give us ways and strategies of maybe extending our lives, and improving the health of a life during the time it's here.
Some biologists claim that we can ultimately extend life a dramatically different order of magnitude to hundreds and maybe thousands of years through biological enhancements, through tinkering with genetic engineering. What are the philosophical implications of that?
Well, there's definitely going to be ethical implications of that. I mean, even if we could extend human lives out, let's say in perpetuity, ought we to do that? Part of that concern comes from, well, what kind of life would that be? And would that be a good life for the person? Would it be a fair life for the species? Knowing how we've rolled out other medical advances, those advances are usually unequally distributed across the population. And so what we might end up with is wealthy people having 500-year lives and poor people having the normal sort of 65 or so year lives that we have now. And so we're creating a world in which we're rewarding the already rewarded socially with biological benefits. It can be pretty ethically difficult to swallow.